So this morning, I am proud to sign a law that will bring an end to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It is a law This law I'm about to sign will strengthen our national security and uphold the ideals that our fighting men and women risk their lives to defend. No longer will our country be denied the service of thousands of patriotic Americans who were forced to leave the military, regardless of their skills, no matter their bravery or their zeal, no matter their years of exemplary performance, because they happen to be gay. No longer will tens of thousands of Americans in uniform be asked to live a lie or look over their shoulder in order to serve the country that they love.
This coming Tuesday marks the 10th anniversary of President Obama signing legislation that repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the Clinton-era law that sought to allow gays to serve under the terms of an uneasy compromise that required them to keep their sexuality a secret while they served. Joining us now, two people who played a big role in that repeal: former Secretary of Homeland Security under President Obama, Jeh Johnson, and Aubrey Sarvis, an Army veteran who served as the executive director for the Service Members Legal Defense Network. Gentlemen, good morning to you both. It's great to have you. I want to dive into this in just a moment, but first, Secretary Johnson, I have to ask you about this cyber attack on the United States, said by some perhaps to be the worst in the history of the country. It appears that it's Russia. It appears that they've been inside our systems, government systems, private companies since March. What do you make of it, and how did it happen?
Good morning, Willie. First, I remember I used to tell people at Homeland Security when I was secretary, don't plan for the last attack, plan for the next attack. Bad cyber actors are increasingly clever, tenacious, aggressive. This particular attack was both ingenious and ironic to implant malware into something that is intended to promote cybersecurity. I agree with the assessments that we've heard on this show and elsewhere this morning that we don't yet know the full extent of this attack. It is most likely the most devastating, far-reaching cyber attack in our nation's history. I have to also note that it is most unfortunate right now that our government lacks its chief cybersecurity official, Chris Krebs, because President Trump fired him a few weeks ago. It's exactly times like this when you need cybersecurity leadership at the national level.
And a president who might actually say something about the worst cyber attack in the history of the country. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But Secretary Johnson, let's go to that 10th anniversary now. We saw the moment where President Obama announced the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You all were working behind the scenes on getting this rolled back. What was that process like, and how did you get to that point 10 years ago?
So, first of all, good morning, Aubrey. 10 years ago, I was general counsel of the Department of Defense. That was my day job. I was, along with Army General Carter Ham, volunteered, as they say at the Pentagon, to co-chair a working group to assess whether the military could handle the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. General Ham and I took 10 months in this project. We surveyed 400,000 service members. We came face to face in various town halls with about 24,000 service members. And along the way, we realized that much of the opposition to the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was based on a stereotype that somehow if you allowed gay service members to be open about their sexual orientation, that it would conjure up a fear that really didn't exist. And General Ham, who started in the Army as an Army private, and I both recognized this was based on a stereotype. And then the survey results came back to indicate that by 2010, most service members really didn't care much about this law anymore. We recommended that the military could handle this. And frankly, the repeal and the implementation of the new regime went much smoother than General Ham and I could have predicted 10 years ago. And then, of course, you had Aubrey, the legislative craftsman behind the scenes, working Congress, working the Hill.
Aubrey, Gene Robinson's here with a question for you. Gene?
Good Aubrey, hi, how are you? Just two quick things. First of all, I just would like you to speak about what the anniversary means to you. And second is what's the next frontier in terms of LGBTQ issues with the military? Is it the Trump administration's hostile attitude toward transgender service members, or is it something else?
Well, first, it was an enormous day for LGBT service members when the Senate, actually 18 years ago, passed the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.